Lunch Break with Zac and Dana on ESPN 106.7.
We have a special guest.
Yes, we do. As every Friday when we like to bring in people from the other side because they're much smarter about the other teams than we are.
Yes.
So, and we are here to educate you on your lunch break. So right now we are going to welcome in Marc Weiszer from the Athens-Banner Herald who covers Georgia. Marc, thanks for joining us today.
Sure. Good to be with you.
So just first of all, I guess we'll just start kind of overall with Georgia. It's an uncharacteristic Georgia year. Is this been, did you foresee this happening? Is it just growing pains with Kirby Smart, or what has it really been like over there with this season?
No, I didn't foresee it happening. Mark Richt got let go after 10-win seasons back to back. So, you knew that they lost a lot of talent on the front seven on defense. But you have Nick Chubb coming back, Sonny Michel. You got to break in a freshman quarterback. You have experience in the offensive line, and it was a 3-0 start, but it was sort of a struggle. You had Nichols at a home game, an FCS team, and they barely squeaked by there. Needed to get a fourth down touchdown pass from Jacob Easton to beat Missouri, and then it was kind of a tailspin. They lost 4 out of 5 games, so it's been a disappointment, I think everyone would say, but they feel better after the win at Kentucky last week, and they have had a schedule that's sent them. It's only the 4th home game they've had this year. They finished with 3 home games, so maybe they finished strong.
Regarding that decision to move on from Mark Richt and to hire Kirby Smart, what's the general fan base's view on that decision still? Is there any panic after losing a little bit more than they're used to, or is everyone kind of saying, okay, just some growing pains?
Well, they're recruiting well for 2017, so that helps. And, when you see the young defensive linemen that have really emerged this year, they feel good about the future there. Easton he hadn't really been the problem as much as the offensive line. He hadn't been all-world or anything, but he's won 2 games, with game-winning drives at Kentucky, at Missouri. It's kind of a wait-and-see deal, I guess. I don't think... there's some wonder, is this a Will Muschamp, a Nick Saban disciple? That is it going to be a top-notch head coach, or is it just year one? And let's see what happens in year 2.
I guess now just transitioning more to the game, and obviously a huge rivalry, and I think a lot of Auburn fans, at least I have got the sense that they can't look past Georgia, and this would be a year that they maybe could, just because Georgia is having a down year. What has made it's so tough to win in Athens, do you think, for Auburn over the past couple years?
It's a weird series. I think, it was in the history that the visiting team usually does better than the home team, but I guess that's kind of been turned around in recent years. One of the issues is Auburn had back-to-back home games, so they have one less game in Athens, but Georgia's had some good teams. They under Mark Richt, obviously, they won 9.5 games a year. Auburn had a down spell there, So Georgia this year certainly doesn't have a home field advantage. They have one win, as I mentioned, against Nichols. They lost to Vanderbilt, first time they've lost here in 10 years, and also, obviously, you remember the Hail Mary against Tennessee. So Georgia's looking for some kind of good home cooking. It hadn't happened yet. I don't know. The 10-point spread is a little surprising to me for Auburn coming in here, given, as you mentioned, that history. But, Georgia hadn't shown it yet so far.
Yeah, and from an Auburn perspective, all the fans over here kind of seem to be extremely paranoid, despite what the spread is, despite what the rankings of these two teams are. So, are Georgia fans over there saying, oh, okay, well, we're playing Auburn at home, so we've got this? Because that's kind of what Auburn's thinking. Oh, no, we have to go on the road to Athens. I don't feel good about that.
Yeah, I don't have the sense that they feel like they've got it. Georgia's been in too many. One of the reasons Mark Richt's probably not here is that they haven't always performed well in the big games. Now, they did beat a top 25 North Carolina team earlier this year, but went to Ole Miss and got their butts handed to them, was 45-0 at one point. And then the Florida game a couple, 3 weeks ago, Georgia's offense was just, shut down. So it's another, top 10 game for Georgia, top 15 game. And I don't know if the confidence level is so high, but they did go toe-to-toe with Tennessee here. So we'll see.
I was looking at some stats earlier this week, and everybody knows about Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel, just two of the better running, two guys that are part of one of the better running back tandems in college football. But it doesn't seem like this offense has been truly dedicated all the time to running with them and letting them lead the way. Some games have kind of been back and forth. Is it just per opponent and they do what they feel like as well? Or is it just kind of a bipolar offense, I guess, and you don't know what you're going to get that day?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with matchups, and they don't want to bang their head against the wall and just run the ball if it's not happening. I mean, there was a lot of criticism against Florida when Georgia only ran the ball 19 times, but they only had 21 yards. So, do you want to keep doing that? I mean, against Kentucky last week, Georgia ran the ball well in the first half, but when things kind of bowed down a little bit, they opened it up and went to the passing game. I know they want to have more balance on offense, but you really haven't been able to count on one or the other. I mean, Georgia went to South Carolina and ran for something like 300 yards, but Jacob Eason was 5 of 17 passing. So there really hasn't been continuity that, for sure what Georgia's offensive identity is week to week. It sometimes does depend on the opponent, and part of that is the offensive line just hasn't consistently been able to give them what they need.
On that note, with the fact that they have gone some weeks very heavy rushing, very heavy passing, or maybe back and forth, the last couple weeks, teams have seemed to found maybe the crack in Auburn's defense in taking out the defensive line with these short, like dink and dunk passes. And especially with, you've said a couple times now that, the Georgia offensive line isn't necessarily a strength for this team this year. Could you foresee them trying to pull that game plan and seeing if Auburn can stop that now?
Perhaps. It's actually been the run blocking more than the pass protection. They can go deep. They hit Javon Wims last week for 50-something plus yard deal. If they have the run game going, they like to play action pass. They think they can draw the defenders into the box, try to shut down the run, and then go after it. Sometimes they slip out their fullback, try to hit a quick pass to him. It's possible they might see some stuff, on tape. I know Chad Kelly threw for a lot against Auburn. Maybe they're going that way too. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So far this season, Georgia's offense, the notable guys have been Chubb, Michel, Eason. Who's kind of that next guy that Auburn fans should kind of keep an eye on in this game?
Well, Isaac Nade is a freshman tight end. They came in with Easton. Both of those guys were 5 stars. They're roommates now, and he really can find the field open across the middle, that kind of stuff. And Jacob looks to him a lot as a target. So, he's the kind of guy that if things are breaking down, he'll kind of be a release guy to look to him. Big guy. He's got 20 catches, 2 touchdowns. And sort of a guy that, if things aren't working on the outside, they could work him across the middle.
Defensively, and obviously Kirby Smart is a defensive guy, defensive coach, and Auburn's offense has finally been coming around the last couple weeks with everything. What has been the game plan, I guess, with whether or not Petway, he might play, he might not play, but you still have Kerryon Johnson for Auburn? What have they said about what their defensive, attack might be, or just what they're planning on doing or anything along those lines?
They're not really putting their cards on the table, as you might imagine, but they are saying.
I for one, am shocked by that, Mark.
But they are saying, Kirby and some of the defensive players that they want Auburn's best shot. Now, truthfully, do they behind closed doors really want to see Petway? I doubt it. But they're not going to say, it'd be great if he's not there. I guess if you just try to read between the lines from what's coming out on the media reports at Auburn, it would be surprising if he has, the kind of workload he usually does for sure, and if he plays even, who knows? Obviously it's got to be an advantage for Georgia, if he can't go. But, Georgia's been gashed at times in the run game. Kentucky still had 160-some yards last week, so we'll see. I'll be interested to see if they go with their backup quarterback and then bring him in to try to work the edges as well.
Yeah, in terms of media reports coming out of here, Gus says he doesn't practice. Rhett said he was out there and did some things. So I can't imagine, getting what conflicting media reports you could be talking about over coming out of the plains. But just also defensively, I feel like every game that there's just some defensive player that Auburn has to watch out for. They faced a Myles Garrett, they faced Zach Cunningham and those guys. Who's that guy for Georgia?
I think, Zach Cunningham. I think he's a guy that, if things aren't working on the outside, they could work him across the middle.
Who's that guy for Georgia?
I'm sorry, I got distracted. You said a defensive guy.
Yeah, just a defensive standout that Auburn fans or Auburn will be aware of this week.
Well, Trent Thompson is a big run stopper, and he's definitely a guy that's going to demand double teams, and a guy that Georgia's going to have success stopping the run. They're going to need him to do what he can do best. He can really get in the backfield, has explosion, can get quick off the ball, and really can be a tackles for loss machine. So they're going to need him to be on his game.
What about? I'm quickly looking through stats because luckily for me, I didn't have to do a complete team by team breakdown this week since we're on the road. But David Bellamy, who has 13 hurries and 4.5 tackles for loss, is he a guy? I mean, what's he bringing to the table? Is he going to be a pain in Shaun White this week?
Lorenzo Carter is their sack leader. He's got 4.5, something like that. But Bellamy is a guy that can also come off the edge. They're really not getting the same kind of pass rush explosion from guys like Jordan Jenkins and Leonard Floyd that went off to the NFL last year. But Bellamy is a guy that has that kind of ability as well. And I don't think he's going to be a Carl Lawson type per se, but he's a playmaker, and he can definitely he can make some plays as well.
What about guys against the pass? I mean, we've talked about pass rushers for Georgia. Is there any cover guys that stand out? Mo Smith, playing the nickelback position, the Alabama transfer, he's really made a big impact immediately. Came in and got a starting job. But DeAndre Baker is a sophomore out of Florida that started the year as a backup guy, and he's really emerged. Especially, you might see him help in the run support, step up, physical guy, very confident guy.
Again, we're talking to Marc Weiszer, who is the Georgia beat writer for the Athens-Banner Herald, and you can find all of his stuff on I'm trying to find I had the website up here. OnlineAthens.com is where you can find all of his stuff. What do you think for each team this weekend is going to be a key? What do you think is a key for Georgia, and what is a key for Auburn on either side of the ball?
Well, obviously, stopping the run game is going to be huge, given what Auburn's doing offensively. Also, with Carl Lawson, they really need to be able to keep him contained, I guess. Give Jacob Easton time. I think if Easton has time, he can make plays downfield. And convert on third down. I think, Georgia's, if they get in some tough situations, they need to be able to manufacture to get the yardage. Last week, they had a weird deal where Isaiah McKenzie was open for a first down on a third down conversion inside the 10-yard line, and he just made a bad decision. He tried to extend it, get extra yards, and instead went back a couple of yards, and Georgia, ended up losing points on that deal.
All right, Mark, we're going to go a little off topic here, and just this is super important. A lot of our listeners are heading over to Athens to watch the game. What's some places they should go eat when they're over there?
We like food we really like food on this program.
Well, I don't know what the lines are going to be like on a weekend like this, but if you're in town early and you want to get breakfast, hit Mama's Boy downtown. It has long lines, but it's worth it. It's good stuff there. And Last Resort is a restaurant in town also that's really popular. So probably more of a lunchtime place. So there's two places to check out.
That sounds like a fantastic answer.
And lastly, we always wrap up with this. What's your prediction?
I don't like the 10-point spread. I think that's too much. But until Georgia can show me consistency on a week-to-week basis, I'm going to pick Auburn by a field goal. So, I think Georgia's got a chance. It should be a real good one, but it's hard to pick against Auburn at this point.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay. Good to be with you.
All right. Thanks, Mark.